Give them a war hand, please. I'll hand you this magic wand and let you do your magic.
Okay, thank you. So, first of all, you see a nice drawing of a picture of Prison Escape. So I'm not going to talk about Prison Escape, not about a movie or a film or whatever. I'm going to talk about operator jail breakouts together with Frank. So, first of all, we're not going to talk about ourselves. Our details are up there on the slide. So, if you want to know more about us, just ask us later on or look us up on the internet. There's tons of information out there. So, an operator jail, what would that be? So actually, a lot of vendors or applications or whatever are trying to prevent people from getting access to the operating system. To prevent them from doing stupid things or from watching movies or from other things. So, examples for that are ATM systems, HMIs, kiosk systems in stores, hotels, systems that you can use to do limited things. Well, why is this important? Well, we're trying to prevent something like this from happening. So this is from an ATM. This might happen on your HMI systems as well, of course. And you might lose control of your systems if somebody is able to connect to the operating system and do wrong things. So, first of all, common issues with operator jail systems. There's all listed up there on the slide. A lot of applications are still running as administrators users. So if you are able to escape from the operator jail, you would turn or have administrative rights on the system, right? So what would that mean? That you have full access to the system and then virtually can do whatever you like. Credentials are still out there in applications, configuration files, internal network, and so on and so on and so on. So, ask a question or why would I care?
So, why would I care? I mean, this is a question that I'm getting from clients for years. Basically, the response, the question they always ask is, well, my system is located in a secure control room. Nobody has access. So, who would take the chance to try and break out my system? From all the years that I've been doing this work, I've been in a lot of control rooms, a lot of countries, and basically all different control rooms I've seen, there are two things which are always the same. One is if they have inside their control room a kitchen, which they often have if they have to operate 24/7, they are really good cooks and they never let you go with an empty stomach. I mean, there are times that I'm at customers where I literally text to my wife telling her, yeah, I'm going to be working late just because I'm getting food here. They're really good cooks.
Can I remind you that this session is recorded for your wife, maybe?
Sure. Okay. To the guys from at the back, can you cut it out at this part? I'll get you a free beer. Next thing I've seen is, why are they so good of cooks? They got a lot of time. I mean, they're sitting there. If everything is going well, they have nothing to do. They just sit there. They only need to do some actions at points that, well, something goes wrong in the process. But if the software has been well written, normally they don't really have to intervene that much. As a result, they get bored. What do they start doing? They want to play games on the HMI. They start downloading videos from the internet. They put it on a USB stick, try to break out of the system, plug it into the operating system. I've seen various virus outbreaks on DCS systems just because the guy got bored and wanted to see a movie. Possible responses that I got from customers in those cases is, one, we want to fire the guy. Two, okay, maybe we should start thinking about just putting a second system right next to it. While being bored, they also want to improve themselves a little bit. So either they start studying or they try to alter the operation of the system. I've had operators trying to break out the DCS system, altering a small bit of code because it goes a little bit faster, because they have to do less manual actions, and so on. I had a customer where it happened that they brought in their vendor. The vendor had to make some alterations on the systems. He did it, finally created a small patch, and that was added to the restore procedures. So if at any point the system would crash, they would take the backup they had from the system, add the patch to it, and they had a fully functional system again. At a certain point, one of the operators got bored, started watching a movie, added a virus on the system, so they decided, okay, we're gonna revert to the safe version that we have. They took the backup, restored it on the system, they added a patch, booted the system, everything worked for 2 seconds, and then the entire system went down. The problem was one of the operators broke out of the system, added some of his own code to make his life a little bit more easy, and the patch didn't work with, well, was actually talking to functions that didn't exist anymore in the software. They were down for 3 days just because the operator got bored. Another reason why you would care, this isn't really the case for HMIs, but a lot of systems that you see with kiosk modes are systems at, for example, in your hotel, where you're able to print out your flight details or something like that. Systems over there. Your normal users would never remove their own data. They'll just forget about it. There's a yearly festival in Belgium called Tomorrowland. I think it has around 120,000 visitors from all over the world. It sells out in less than 10 minutes. A while ago, I did a penetration test in a hotel, and on their kiosk systems at the entrance where people could print out whatever they wanted, I found tickets for that festival. Those tickets are going at the black market at around 700 euros just because they're so hard to get. Just negative press is also an issue in these cases. You do not want to have, imagine you having a big event with press in your company. You have a registration system standing there. You do not want to have some IT journalist writing about the fact that he hacked your company due to the kiosk system which is there to handle your registration.
Okay, so you might wonder how you can check for operator jails. Now, actually, it's very easy, very simple. Do whatever on a system that you were told not to do. So actually, you can test your mouse, test your keyboard. So start pounding on your keyboard, start pressing any possible keyboard combination you can imagine. Click on every single button you see on the system. So you can already imagine that doing such of operator jail breakouts might not be the best thing to do on a live system. Preferably during FAT exercises or even SAT exercises. But we did already some live testing for these, and yeah, sometimes you could screw up the system. Luckily, we did not yet do that for us though. So some easy ways. Most HMI systems, so now we're talking only for HMI systems, most HMI systems are nowadays almost always based on Windows systems, Windows operating system. So the easy way is go to the help. Press F1 or use the built-in help functionality to browse the browse the help files and search for commands you can use to break out. Use the sticky keys. So 5 times pressing on a key to pop out the sticky keys window, and you can do stuff with that as well. Windows keyboard combinations, control keys, and so on and so on. And through installed software. A lot of software comes installed or pre-installed. For example, antivirus systems, you have to install them, of course, if you have them on your HMIs. Some people do, some organizations do, and sometimes they allow tray pop-ups to show up when there's an event or when they have not been able to update their systems. Even though the operator jail is locked, you still have the pop-ups showing up in front of the application. So if you're not quick enough to click on the message, actually you're already breaking out the operator jail, or possibly. Some harder ways are actually network-based, so just try to plug into the network, which should not be that difficult. If they have protection on network, yeah, you have a little bit more work to do on that part, but actually it's not that difficult. Clicker seems to be stuck sometimes. Okay, first of all, go to the help file. Well, use the help window. then search and run for cmd.exe, the task manager, PowerShell, and just click on it to run. For more recent operating systems, if you ask the help from a system, you just get an Internet Explorer window. And from there on, you can do a lot of things on the system as well. So this screenshot was taken on a touch panel. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Siemens touch panel. It says on top left. So I said pound on the keyboard, press every single keyboard combination that you can imagine. You can do the same with your on-screen keyboard as well. So this shows actually an HMI in which we open the help file to the right. There's a laser. The help file, just search for the on-screen keyboard. We have this, and then from there on we jump through to the command exe. And if you have enough access rights on the system, you are local administrator. If you don't, you end up as a regular user, but using privilege escalation techniques, you could end up being local administrator anyhow. Who's patching his systems anyhow? So, checking for operator jails through the help file. If you have limited access to help files, for example, you only have the help file of this printer, you can still browse the system for the normal help files, and from there on, the game starts again that I just explained. So, sticky keys. What can we do with sticky keys?
So, next one is sticky keys. This is one of the easiest way to break out, and for some strange reason, it still works on a lot of systems. I know ATM machines in Belgium where you can break out of the application, go to the underlying Windows, which of course is Windows XP, still in 2018, and where you get full access to the underlying OS. This one still works. And the trick is pretty simple, just press Shift 5 times. That's it. Pop-up pops up asking you, okay, are you sure you want to use the sticky keys? You click on the link and it opens the settings of the device. From there on, you can go to anything. Key combos, already briefly explained by Dieter. There are thousands of key combos within Windows. The Windows key plus E opens the Explorer, Windows R, run, and so on and so on. There's a huge list of this. Oh, wrong side. Next one, Control plus various keys. Same thing. Depending on the application you're in, it will open various functions of that application. Now, I've been doing this work for years. I'm getting bored. It's always the same thing, always testing all the different key combinations. So I started automating it. Does everybody know what the rubber ducky is? It's basically a USB stick. You put on a small program in there which you define by yourself. It emulates a keyboard and it presses it presses the buttons defined in there. The original idea for that was, okay, if I can just drop the USB key somewhere, somebody takes it, puts it in the system, and the keyboard starts emulating, creating the virus on the system itself, and then it executes it. So I started thinking, can't I use this? So I created a script which basically tests all Control plus any different key combination that's possible, Alt plus different key combinations, Windows plus key combinations. And all I need to do is plug in the USB stick, wait for a few seconds, add on a timer, and then I know, okay, if after 27 seconds something happens on the screen, I know that this key combination works. It really doesn't take that long to test all the key combinations. Printers, please, if you're a supplier, if you're a creator of HMI systems, never use the built-in printing functionality of Windows. There are so many outbreaks. If you just click very simply the print to file button, you will get a open software dialog. From there on, you just browse to cmd.exe, you right-click it, and you say execute it, and it will open up the commands prompt. Find a printer. That allows that one device to scan your entire internal network. If you go to an already installed printer, ask for the properties of the printer. There's always either some diagnostic page. You can go to the vendor website, or you can go to the website of the printer itself on the local network, which then gives you the Internet Explorer. And from there on, you can go on. The moment you got an Internet Explorer, just launch any URL on the system, launch any application on the system. If there's no whitelisting on your device, you will be able to execute it. Instead of going http google.com, you go to Windows System 32 cmd.exe. It will download the executable and run it eventually. Should you have an existing internet connection, there's a website called iCAD. iCAD has thousands of ways to break out of kiosks. This is one that I did during penetration test. I added myself on the network, performed man in the middle, and then the website that was being shown within the HMI was redirected to my device, where I could eventually open up command.exe again, and so on. There's always a possibility, if the vendor is somewhat security-minded, he will add an antivirus on your system. Now, what happens if I take a USB stick and I put it in, with a virus on it, and I put it in your HMI? Of course, there are some test viruses like ECAG, which has no functionality. It's never going to attack your system, but it will trigger the antivirus. The antivirus shows a pop-up and you're outside of the intended application. One that's becoming a problem recently is, while booting the device, there's a possibility to run bat files, to run startup scripts. Often they are not being put in silent mode, so you can really see the screen. In old version of Windows, it wasn't really a problem. Yeah, you could go to the properties of the cmd.exe, but eventually you can break out of it. As of Windows 10, Windows has been so friendly to add a new link within the property file, which then takes you back to an Internet Explorer, and you can go to anywhere within the system you want.
Okay, now we come to a little bit more juicy stuff. Some breakouts from operators of HMI software being used out there. The first one is the CMAS MM8000. It's mostly used for fire detection systems and building automation, things like that. So I don't have screenshots for that one because I wasn't allowed to take screenshots, unfortunately, but I took good notes, so these are notes. So go to the historic browser, export the historics, and then from there on, actually you're already on the operating system. So the next steps are really the same ones I've explained already before. Okay. So this one is from actual HMI software, which we are doing a SAT testing on. So this is from a hydro plant. It's based on WinCC software, which they have several function program in it. And one particular function is you can pop up the network diagnostics overview, which is over this. Just click on the diagnostics after you've clicked on this arrow here. Then this shows actually, they've thought they were going to be smart. They said, well, let's prevent access to the Internet Explorer, but implement it, so embed it actually within the WinCC software. So that's what they did. So they created a browser within the WinCC software, which is perfectly possible. So here are, of course, all the links to the process bus network. There's already some good stuff as an operator, as a board operator, to say like that. And then, of course, the browser. Well, you see here, view source. From there on, you have access to the notepad. And from there on, you can open file, open or file save as or whatever. Go to the C Windows System 32 directory, go to cmd.exe, right-click, run, and this is the result. So you have access to the operating system. In this case, the vendor prevented access as administrator. You still have access as System 32, but we couldn't do anything worse with this. But he forgot to patch his system, as I explained earlier on. So privileged escalation came over. So some other ones. This is also from the same HMI software. You could request trends, and you could print them, of course. But there was no printer attached, but you could print them to the XPS printer pre-installed on Windows. So you do that. You have the nice save as file dialog, and you have access to the operating system. So no operator jail again. So you can see already there are sometimes really easy steps to be doing.
Next up is Siemens T3000. Is there anybody in the room who's using this system? I see some hands. This is a security conference. Why are you telling me this? You know I'm a hacker. Why do you give me this information? Come on. So, we actually did this test on the Siemens site itself. They really did their best trying to secure their software. Every printing function, manuals, everything, they created custom functionality to make sure it was not possible to break out of the system. The problem is there was one developer who did not get that message and used within the printing function of the help, they used the default Windows printing function allowing you to break out. So you just go to the help page, if you print here, you get a normal pop-up from Windows. The ABB 800XA.
Let's try the same question. Who's using 800XA here?
Nobody's responding. Better.
Okay, nobody.
Good, you're learning. This system was an interesting one. Was also was trying to break out of it. Was sitting there in the control room. The operator came to me asking me, "What are you doing? Why are you trying this?" Yeah, I'm want to try it to see if I can break out of your system. His response was, "Well, this is a way to get out, and this is another one, and this is another one." They've been using it there internally for years. So how do you do it over there? Basically, you just ask for the help file. Within the help file, you say, okay, I want to open up another help file, and you can give up any executable you want, which will then be executed. They added some whitelisting of applications on the system, so executing cmd.exe didn't work, no command shell. However, what a lot of whitelisting programs forget is that in older versions of Windows, you also have something called command.com, which is the older version of cmd.exe, and that one was still allowed. Software was running with system privileges, so we eventually got full system privileges on the device. Another breakout on the system is just asking them for historical data, which would then open up an extremely outdated version of Excel. What a lot of people forget is Excel is more powerful than you think. There are special Excel worksheets where you can download, which basically run a completely functional Windows Task Manager inside. Every cell gets the list of processes running. You can kill processes, you can start processes, you can attach one process to another process, and so on. Next one is Segelic. Segelic, SCADA. Segelic is I think, a vendor from France.
Belgium.
Belgium? Okay, vendor from Belgium. When you open up the software, you get something like this. When you click the data on basically any device in your network, you get a pop-up with various variables which you can then set, alter, and so on. From there on, you click on the export button, which then opens up a WordPad, which allows you to do anything on the system. Another one on Segelic. If in the bottom you press on one of the diagnostics buttons, it will give you this screen, which then eventually gives you an Acrobat reader, which again allows you to do anything you want. Should you be too lazy to figure out issues with the Segelic system on how to break out of it, there's an extremely easy way. Segelic has internally, they have an access management system. An operator can view this data, can acknowledge alarms, and that's it. An engineer has a little bit more access, and the system operator has whatever he wants. The access system on that system is pretty well defined, and you can really go into detail to say what can a user do, what can't a user do. The only issue in the software is the only access right which you cannot revoke from any user is the access right to change access rights. So an operator is allowed to give himself engineering access rights. This isn't right. I mean, anybody can give himself additional access rights, and there's no way in the software to prevent it.
Okay, some more about Uncoming behavioral system. So we've seen several HMI examples over the previous slides, but there's also other ways to get the system to behave otherwise than it's intended to. So First of all, crashing the software, crashing the HMI software, crashing the ADM software, whatever software is running. So by overloading the system or by providing unexpected input. Opening help files for more than 1,000 times would help unexpected formats. So actually injecting whatever input you would want to give to the system. Pulling out network cables often also gives unexpected results on software that expects to be always connected. Rebooting system, as Frank already mentioned, during a reboot, silent script might run, so-called silent scripts, but you can pop up the properties windows and get access to the system. Starting in safe modes works on phones as well, but of course this one is not recommended to do in live running systems, only during FAT and SAT testing. So that's about it for the bad news. What you can do about it? Well, all these things. So actually all the things that you should be doing already in your environment. So system hardening, applying vendor fixes and patching, key combinations blocking, and so on and so on and so on. So the one on the bottom I would like to elaborate a little bit on. You could use the Windows application locker, which is fine, but you'll have a hard time configuring it because it's rather picky on what gets blocked and what should not be blocked. Otherwise, you could lock yourself out of the operating system. But the bad thing about the Windows application locker, actually not Windows application locker itself, is that some extra applications you have to use for reason X, Y, Z, you install them and they just ignore the Windows application locker settings. They just grant you access to the operating system completely. So that's something that needs to be sorted out. And well done. With this, I would like to end our presentation. So feel free to enjoy the operator jail breakouts at your own installations. Take due care though. So with this last message, I would like to stress the fact that operator jail breakout tests should be included in your test plans during FAT, SAT testing, and also sometimes, if allowed, during live environment testing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a gift to you. You get another gift.
Thank you very much.
You already got the book from last year, I think.
I think so.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
I have some questions for you,
Go
so
ahead.
don't leave just yet. Well, there are more coming in the last second. I get crazy. So, all right. We'll start with the ones that we got. So. When you find such a breakout possibility, do you report it to the vendor?
Well, there's a huge debate between our customers and ourselves. We would like to disclose that to our indirect customers, or the vendors, but actually we're not always allowed by our own customers. So they would like to do it themselves, and sometimes they just don't do it. If we find the same vulnerability on, for example, test systems, we could do it.
It all depends on the contractual agreements between the pen testers and the company itself. In most of the contract states that all intellectual property of that test gets transferred to the client. So at that point, we legally are not allowed to go to the customer, to the vendor itself. From time to time, the client allows us to do it. On other times, they say, no, we want to do it ourselves because otherwise this vulnerability might become public. Somebody could use it to attack us. So
the best way to do that is during FAT and SAT testing, in which the vendor is actually included in the testing. So he's just sitting next to you and is actively searching with you to find other desktop breakouts. So that's really a good way to do so without impacting legal obligations and stuff like that.
Yeah. So do you have an experience in disclosing to the vendor or a third-party proxy like a CERT or something?
Yes.
And what are your experiences that?
I personally have various ones going from extremely bad to extremely well. I found a vulnerability in Nessus a while ago, the vulnerability scanning device, where you could attack the one who was scanning you. I disclosed it to them. It took them 2 hours to release the next patch and to push it into public. So that one was okay. I had vendors that responded with, we're going to sue you because this isn't allowed during our agreements. I eventually told them that if they want to do that, that's fine by me, that they need to sue my client because he was the one ordering me to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so you've seen it
No
all, more or
lawsuit
less.
came of that one.
Okay.
So it's a sensitive thing.
It is.
To handle.
It really is. And
Tread lightly.
difficult sometimes. So, have you ever failed to break out on operator jail?
Yes.
Yes.
To be honest, yes.
Um,
One example I can give, I've been doing some, this was a one from this year actually. I've done the same breakout on that same environment for, I think, 4 times in a row. And the 4th time, I just did not succeed anymore to break out of it. But the site owner, maintenance team, ordered or asked to have additional software installed, after which it again success.
Ah, all right.
So
Nice.
through opening other doors, actually, you can again find other breakouts. But the vendor itself was a success story actually in preventing operator jails
Yeah,
to
right.
be broken out.
You just have to wait for the next patch Tuesday, and then it's fine.
Something like that.
Okay. Okay, cool. So would you say there is a difference in difficulty breaking out of HMIs depending on operating system? There was a lot of talk about Windows here.
Yeah. Well, we just didn't occur any HMIs on other operating systems yet anymore. So
I had some
scary.
on Linux. The default fault that they always use there is that Linux by default uses 6 or 7 different shells which you can use. So by pressing, I think, Ctrl-Alt, F1, F2, F3, you can switch between different environments. And if they then, well, put default passwords still in there, you're still out of the system and can do whatever you want. So.
But actually, it's the same process. So press on every single button you can find, press every single key and key combination you can imagine of. So same process.
I'm curious, have you seen anyone trying to move into more minimized versions of Windows?
It happens from time to time, but eventually they start adding additional software on client requests, extra printing functionalities, things like that.
And then they're gone anyway.
Then it's gone again.
All right then. How much of the success in breaking out depends on physical access to the HMI?
Well, to be honest, the things that we presented are based on having physical access to the HMI system. So we took the approach of the board operator, the operator who went haywire. So he got fired and did some things, so insider threats attacks. So you have to have some form of physical access, or do it through VNC connections or whatever. You could do it as well, if you have a VNC connection.
All right. So here's someone that wants to argue with you. I would argue that operating jailing is not really a security solution. Do you really mean that? That it is, I guess. You need to run with relevant privileges, keep systems up to date,
Yes.
etc.
Well,
Anyway.
It is.
On itself, the operating jail should not be the only way of defending yourself. The problem is that the vendors, and most of the time ICS vendors, still do not realize that it might be an issue, and they still are running everything under system privileges. They're still all running using clear text passwords, configuration files, things like that. And if you then have an operator who is bored and wants to watch a video, everything he executes will also be executed with those access rights. So is it a security solution? No, but it will deter eventually whatever happens should your operator not follow procedure.
One nuance though with the vendors, it's not always the vendors, but it's also the integrators who are failing to implement security measures that the vendors supply sometimes. So, but as Frank mentioned, it's one piece of the security puzzle. So you have to see and what fits for your own organization. So network segmentation is part of it, security monitoring is part of it, security hardening is part of it, and operator jails are also one part of it if you want operators to having access to your operating system. If you want to prevent that, well, you should be doing it.
So going back to the board operator problem, have you seen anyone that tries to accommodate the need for board operators to actually have some recreational activities, like installing something, a PlayStation on the side? Or something?
I have
Yes.
some clients where they get a separate workstation, and on that workstation they are allowed to watch their movies, they are allowed to play games and do whatever they want.
Before that, they were doing it on the HMI system.
Yes, exactly.
They were watching movies there, yes.
And playing Counter-Strike.
I've had another client where they noticed that from time to time the system starts doing strange things, but it only happened during the night. So
Night
they
shift.
asked me, hey, can you try and figure out what's happening? So I went there, investigated PC, nothing to be found. You couldn't see any proof of an operator trying to break out. So we started thinking, okay, what can this be? And we realized, well, the system that's giving false alarms is a wireless system. So we put on some tabs somewhere on different locations just to scan what is happening. It turned out that the operators at night, they took a Nintendo DS with them so they could play games against each other, but that system created a hotspot, and the moment they started playing, it gave you interference with the real system. So yeah, you do have to watch out with what entertainment you provide for your operators.
Yes, yeah, and board operators are dangerous operators, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so do you pen test operator jail breakout on live HMI systems only, or the other way around, or also test on offline?
We're doing FAT testing, so really at the factory, so offline yet during SAT. And if you're allowed by our customers, we also do it on live systems. So I've been doing, one of the screenshots was from a live system, actually. So the one from the hydro plant was really running. So, yeah, they allowed me to do so. They said, okay, do whatever you want.
And they accept the liability?
Yeah. Yeah, we only do it normally if there's a second or even a third HMI available, which they can use. I did a penetration test on a gas power plant a while ago, which was fully virtualized. All systems were running on one ESX server, screen were remotely sent to the operating room. For some reason, and we still do not know why, all screens went black in the middle of my test, everything at once. So I never seen a room more silent than that one, because everybody was sitting there. Okay, as long as our process goes well, we don't have an issue. If something goes wrong within the next few minutes, we're dead. That was basically what it came to. There was no more control of the system. After 10 minutes, all screens popped up again for some reason, and everything continued working. So, yeah, do try to watch out what you do in live systems. But from time to time, there is no alternative.
One thing that we always require is that our customer is there with us to see what we are doing. And sometimes he starts playing with operational breakouts himself. So really, hey, I found this. Oh, already found it, sorry.
Yeah. So it becomes a competition.
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah, gamification. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, gamification.
Yeah, all right. So no further questions here. So I'll thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.